So here we are in at level 19. The control Z can also be thought of as a conditional operation. Let me zoom down a little bit. If the blue box at the qubit 0 is off, the control Z does nothing. If it's on, the control Z does a Z on the qubit 1. Since the normal Z is not working for on this chip, and X only works for qubit 0, this feature of the control Z should come in handy. Target turn off the blue boxes using the allowed gates. Turn off the blue one. Maybe I can zoom that out in a way that it's just going to be the whole puzzle visible. That makes it that's better, definitely. So I gotta do what? I gotta turn off the blue boxes using the allowed gates. Turn off the blue boxes. So if, and it says here that the control Z and the qubit 1, because the thing is we want to, okay, so what we probably want to do is because the Z is not working on the qubit 1, no, the X only works on the qubit 0, so it's not working. The Z is not working on this chip at all. Okay, so I want to do a control Z on 1 based on 0 before we then turn off back 0 again, based on the way this is explained. So it makes it complicated because there's different ways to interpret the control Z. So every time that I try to solve some of those puzzles based on that, then I kind of lose the context of everything else that I knew about the control Z. But let's see if, at the end of the day, for me, the control Z is really a different, it's a way to create, it's a gate that will help us create a certain type of correlation of entanglement. And I think that's kind of the biggest takeaway. But let's see. So basically, we want to turn the qubit 0 up here into 1. So we want to turn it on. So we're going to do, we're going to do an X on 0. Okay, so you don't have to put 0 because it's already. Now we're going to do a control Z. So we kind of, what happens if we do a control Z? Then, so we've moved that from that dimension somewhere else, right? So you can see that in the correlation, but I'm guessing that, again, there's sort of a third dimension to this. And now if I do a Hadamard on the qubit 1, I'm basically swapping those two dimensions. So now we've got that off. And if I do, again, a control Z, nothing, an X and Q0. Because if I do another Hadamard on 0, sorry, I meant 1. What if I do a control Z now? Nothing happens. So Hadamard on 0, back here. And I do a Hadamard on 1. So we're back. Because the X doesn't work in 0. So, but if I do a control Z, I mean, so what do we want to turn them off or on? Target, turn off. Okay. Yeah, okay, so, but if I do a Hadamard, I'm stupid, I already had it. So if I do a Hadamard on 1, then that's off, and then I do an X on the qubit 0, and we're done. Okay, I just missed that. Good, let's go ahead. Next puzzle. Level 20, this chip is in an entangled state. The qubits are correlated in a way that only quantum objects can be. Though outputs coming from both qubits will be completely random and have not yet decided what to randomly be, they are certainly to always agree. What does this mean for the control Z? If the blue boxes are full of undecided randomness, does a Z get applied to qubit 1 or not? For the time being, you're probably better off with the box swapping interpretation when stuff like this is going on. Target, turn off the blue boxes. It's an interesting question to pose. Does the Z get applied to a qubit 1 or not? Because if I do a Z on 1, definitely there's something happening because so here that red one here has changed, which is again a signal that there's something missing in this visualization, right? Which is already what the actual game, the app you can download points us to as well. So what was the target again? Turn off the blue boxes. So and I just did a Z on 1, and if I do a Z on 0, you see Z on 0. So that guy here gets like on and off. No matter whether it's Z and 1 or Z and 0. So there's definitely something else going on. Because the thing is, if I do a Control Z, no, Hadamard is not going to do anything because it's just, they're both undecided. They're both like, we're going to move information around those 2 dimensions. It's not going to do really anything. And an X either. So, but so that's telling me, so this guy, this is telling me they're always, so this is telling me that these are always going to agree. And this is telling me that now these dimensions are also always going to agree. Just out of curiosity, if I do an X on 0. Oh, wait a second. So again, so now this is on. Of course, because I've applied an X to a state that's undecided. But by doing that now, I made them disagree. That's interesting. And if I do an X and 1, yeah. So to some extent, the Z does the same, but to the second dimension, right? So now they're always going to disagree. So what if I do Hadamard on 0? Boo, ooh. So there's stuff happening here, right? There's stuff happening here inside those 4 boxes that define the correlation. So basically, we're messing up with this. But basically, what I've done now with a Hadamard, what have I just done? A Hadamard on the qubit 0. And what if I do a Hadamard on the qubit 1? Hadamard on the qubit 0. So, because now, basically, I kind of so now so now I've moved the certainty and to sort of a correlation between each dimension of each qubit, if I can call those things dimensions, right? So basically, this means that the blue circle of qubit 1 is always going to agree with the red circle of qubit 0, and then vice versa with the other. So if now I apply a Control Z, that should definitely change things. Bam, nice. So now things have changed in the sense that this is, now we have certainty in this dimension here. So we've moved things in and out of the correlation, so to say. It's so awkward. And now I can obviously Hadamard 0, Hadamard 0, Hadamard 1, and then I can do x0 and x1. So basically, I'm done. Ooh. Now next, on to the next chip. Okay, so see, there is sort of one kind of game per interpretation of the Control Z. I've used the Control Z to do something to qubit 1 that was conditioned on qubit 0. Sometimes you might want to operate that works the other way around. It turns out that 2 exact same operation can be interpreted in the opposite way. That's confusing, which is handy since it is qubit 0 for which X and Z aren't working for this chip. Turn off the blue boxes using the allowed gates. Turn off the blue boxes. So now Z is not working. So, but what this is telling me is that Control Z, it's an awkward way to define that. So if I now do Control Z, so what happens if I do Control Z? So I'm even like, I feel pity because the game is trying to box my thinking in a way, and I'm just I'm ignoring. I feel my mind is ignoring that for the moment. Because if I do a Hadamard on the qubit 0, then I got that. And if I do a Control Z now, nothing happens. Why? Control Z. Well, yeah, sorry. Here's something happening. So if I Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, I can't revert. Yeah, it's weird. So if I do a Hadamard on 1, and now I do Control Z, would have just okay. So now I basically have the certainty here. So the thing is, I feel intuitively I'm kind of understanding something, but I can't really put it into words. So, and now I basically, I mean, I know how to proceed because I know that now I can move that information. And maybe the confusion here is that I'm missing this third dimension that I'm talking about. So Hadamard on qubit 1 gives me this, and then next, oh, but I can't do a next on qubit 0. Hadamard on qubit 0, and if I now do Control Z, yeah, so now I kind of flip that here, and now I do a Hadamard on 0, so that's off already, and I do a next on 1, and that's it. Great. I think the fact that there are 3 interpretations is confusing, and it's a sign that I don't know how to interpret that. There are those who like to reflect upon the mystery of how this works, but they are tiny and stuck in a fancy. But they are. There are those who like to reflect upon the mystery of how this works, but they aren't tiny and stuck in a fancy fridge and trying to do a job that they can't even remember. So you better save your reflections for later. On to the next chip.